Brandon Quick, and this is Chris Carlino. We are partners, and we are the co-owners of the American Grappling Federation. So we are here to chit chat because usually we're just online and on the phone every single 5 minutes during the day. But we're here at the UMAC in Tulsa, Oklahoma, have an excellent tournament. It is the U.S. Open, and man, we've been coming here for quite a few years. Talked to Brian Stubner just now. He brought back some memories about other things and stuff. It's really cool to see it from other people's perspective, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
If I were to give a quick synopsis of what Chris and I do a little bit in the background, Chris works heavily, obviously, with the software side of it, registration, website, technical stuff to deal with the scoreboards and changes and stuff like that. I secure facilities and deal with the referees. Both of us deal with an absurd amount of logistics.
A lot of training. Both of us do the training aspect of things, trying to get all the event coordinators caught up on, you know, how to run operations so it doesn't look like we're not there.
Yeah. And so we definitely have a yin and yang, and we're different style of people and stuff like that. But man, we work great together. We built a great company. I'm super proud of us, to be honest. We're doing good.
I'm pretty happy about this. Yeah.
I'm super happy about this. The reason I'm super excited is because, you know, as you know, some of the people here may not know, but like I've gone off to go try and start the East Coast, and they go off to start the West Coast in Europe. So there's a lot of faces here that I was used to seeing 12 years ago, you know, 7 years ago, stuff like that. I also moved to Florida. So there's so many people here that it's like, dude, every time I run into someone, you know.
I talked to a parent like when you were up here with Brian, and we were off camera over there, and he was talking about wanting to join and be staff. How does he do it? I'm like, take a look out there. Like, look at every single one of those tables. How many of those people do you recognize from 3 years ago, 4 years ago? We got Chris Perry's been with us since our first tournament in Springfield.
Yeah.
So that's almost like 10 years ago. And it's like, if you get in, you don't leave. And I think that's what makes us run so well. Is everybody down there knows how to do their job. It's not us constantly having to teach people how to do the ring coordinator position. I mean, it's not a complicated position, but it gets so much easier when you put repetition in. It's just like everything else.
I definitely think we have a subculture of people that work with us in different locations, and with the little mini vacays that'll kind of take together. You know, like we have Destin today in Tulsa, Sacramento, California today. But groups will hang out. We have open mats in our 2 days. No one in the industry is doing open mats and stuff like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
You know, there's some of the major tournaments might have obviously seminars and stuff like that, but having an open mat at every single one of our 2 days. You guys are talking like, you know, we've had them in New Orleans and Biloxi and Dallas and Houston and Tulsa and Oklahoma City and St. Louis. Like we have.
I got hit up by one of the guys that normally comes to our open mats. He's like, "Hey, since Brandon's doing these seminars, are you canceling the open mat?" I'm like, "Let me check on that." And I messaged you, and you got like, "No, we're gonna do it after." And I told him, he's like, "Oh, thank God." He's just so worried that we're gonna miss the open mat. It's kind of become, it's grown over time. Well, like the first time we had maybe like 10, 15 people. And then last one I think we had was like maybe over 30 some people. It's not where I think it could be. I think I'd love to see both sides full.
Yeah.
But we're starting to get to the point where half of it's at least full.
It's still hard. It's the end of the day.
It's very hard.
You know, 2 day tournaments are not our small ones that end at noon or something. You know,
like today we're ending at, well, our last staging's 4. So
yeah, I teach at 5:30.
Yeah, and then
I promote my local black belt from Tulsa, Thomas Longacre. That'll be really cool because
is this his first degree?
Yes, so the whole community here knows him. It's not really a me and him special moment. It is, but it's more, you know, everyone here knows it.
Are you doing it during this seminar?
No, as soon as seminar starts, yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that first, teach, and then, you know, everyone roll and stuff like that, you know. And that'll be super awesome, you know, like.
No, that's cool.
Because it's the local community, like I said, you know. So I think building a culture around AGF has really been beneficial for us. That's what we're all here for, you know. Even last night, though, I had the opportunity when I was on the mat to like talk jiu-jitsu with a bunch of people, positions, points. What about this? Is this legal? What about next year? Blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. So for me, since I'm so in depth with the rules and refs, it was really cool to be out, because I go to the new spots and I'm trying to grow the new locations. I don't get to go to all the open mats, you know. So and it's really just about training these new refs into how do we do our system and style.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
So how'd your talk with Brian go with the new rules?
So Brian was one of the two guys when and what we're talking about the new rules, guys, is reversals in 2024. So we're not just counting it as a sweep using the guard to go from bottom to top to any position that switches from bottom position to top position. And so, some people like that. Some people love it. Some people are like, and some people are very traditional,
Mm-hmm.
But I just bring it back to, and when Brian called me, he said, Brandon, I'm not a fan yet, but if you explain things well, when you explain your rules and rules in general, if you can explain it to me so that I can understand or even be a fan, then I'll be a fan. But, explain it to me. And so I did. And the reversal thing, long story short, is we should be rewarded for where in a grappling match, we should be, not just grappling, but all of the grappling arts, actually, right? Should be rewarded for our grappling match, the points for where we want to be in a fight, right? And so all of the striking world, all of the other grappling arts, and the UFC, right? UFC's headquartered in the United States. It's very big in our culture as well, too. But fighting, quote unquote, in general, bottom guy goes from bottom to top. Doesn't matter how it is. That guy's on top. The guy on top is considered dominant, And I know that the first thing that comes to coaches' minds when I say this is they just think to trap and roll for mount.
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, I can go make a playlist of 100 things that is, we're in Oklahoma here, and you got kids that have been wrestling since they were 4 years old.
Right.
And they have been in the turtle position where they call the referee, and they hit a switch, and they spin around, they come to that kid's back now, right? And under the current sweep mentality and the current jiu-jitsu mentality, that should equal too, but it doesn't. It's in an area where they're just like, oh, I get rewarded for escaping. I'm like, no, you didn't just escape. I'm not giving you just escape and get to your feet points. You changed the position and put that man down, and now he's on his back. So yeah, if he got rolled from out, other people say, hey, what about if I go for an armbar from out and I miss, right? Like, well, you're either I'm not going to want to dismount then. Well, you're either going to want to attack submissions that keep you mounted, or maybe you want to stay arm triangled or Americanas or something like that, or collar chokes or something like that, or it'll make your armbar better.
Yeah.
We can't just throw a sloppy armbar because, again, where do we want to be in a fight? Chris, you and I have trained with each other when we first started jiu-jitsu in Texas.
First 5 years.
I don't know if you remember some of my early competitor, not rules, but like styles of strategies, I should say. I make everyone attack the Americana like crazy from the Mount White Belt type and lower ranked kids so that they don't go for a sloppy armbar and fall off and the kid comes on top.
Yeah, I
didn't even care about the points. I just didn't want to have the kid end up on bottom off of a sloppy armbar.
That's the same mentality that I use, because I don't ever, unless like we're 15 seconds left and I'm down and I need that win, or I'm way up on points, I'm not going to do it. And so I teach at my own home, and that's kind of how it's like, don't leave a dominant position to go for something like a Hail Mary, so to speak. And so you and I both know, no one else really knows, I've been pretty resistant to this change for the longest time. I've got the mentality, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type mentality. And over time, my mentality towards it has changed. I'm still on that fence where I'm not sure how, and it's my
watch it play out.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm hopeful that it's adopted quickly. I don't want to be something that we have to, 2 years down the road, still teach them, no, that we're different in this way. So that was kind of my thought process toward it. It's like, I don't want to be rocking the boat too much. We got a great thing. Look at this. This is great. Does this affect us? And so that's always been my fear, trying to, make sure that we don't lose the momentum that we've been gaining and stuff. So I'm hopeful that the rules make sense. I understand it, and I actually like it to some extent. It's always been, does everyone else like it?
Well, I was going to defend you in your dislike for it in the beginning, also because it also has to do with training all our people. After we have a challenge bag to challenge a ref call, an instant video replay, just to deal with refs making bad calls already, right? So as a check and balance system, right? So, you know, I know before you were like, you know, this is another thing. We're gonna have to train all these, like every single ref. You know,
because not only do we have to train our staff, we have to train our competitors, and we have to train our coaches and spectators. We have to train everyone.
This is you know, the spear front of the movement in America and the world. America's leading the charge on the great merge of wrestling and jiu-jitsu. It's leading the charge in terms of the media and popularity of jiu-jitsu. It's leading the world with the UFC as well too. So with jiu-jitsu and MMA being so popular through the United States, we are at the spear front here, especially with the American Grappling Federation being in Europe and being in other countries. So we are a spokesman for how events are run in the United States. And people view us as a premier tournament in the United States. So as we go over there, I know, I go there a lot and I teach there a lot, obviously, that those people appreciate some of those changes, but our mentality and what's going on in the sport. Everyone can see in the sport that it's really having a big merge with jiu-jitsu and wrestling as well, too. Just the techniques, but also, you know, the fight game as well too. But in the grappling world, I think it'll also be easier eventually. You don't have to, oh, well, did he have his knee in for a second to consider it a sweep? Or no, the guy just went from top to bottom. Like,
I think it's going to simplify a lot of things. But as I've always been pressing is we just got to make sure that, you know, everything's in the rule books and we try to educate, or at least have the materials out there to educate as best as possible.
The new rules videos last night, we'll chop them up. I'm having them out in less than a week. And there's a few spots where I stuttered or messed up. So we'll send them to our editor and he'll fix it up and put it out. So you guys will have that for 2024. We did submissions just so that mainly my videos, I was talking to my refs. I mean, coaches and competitors, of course, but talking to my refs. Hey, don't just don't just DQ someone here. Like, make sure it's a proper spot. We talked about subs because submissions currently are an advantage. Next year, they're 1 point, you know? And even when we did advantages for submissions or talked about that before with, randomly with other people, people always thought it was a gray area. And in my mind, there's no gray area. There's a line in the sand is where this was a strong submission attack or not, you know? So I also tried to draw the line in the sand with the refs for the omoplata, for the triangle, for the basic armbar, for anything belly down, for the footlock, for the heel hook, and for the flash submissions. Because you can go, you know, heel hook and the guy defends a heel hook and you go straight into a knee bar, you know? So just because something's not held and straight for 1,001, 1,000, I don't know where, I think people think because we hold positions for 3 seconds, that submissions need to be held for 3 seconds to get an award. You know?
You've stressed the no further steps necessary.
Yes, and I explained that again last night. Yeah.
And then, so I was talking to a coach downstairs, and I'm trying to remember. He interpreted it as forcing the opponent to react to it. So if
they have to defend,
and that was the criteria for whether or not it was a solid submission or not, versus no further steps. And so, how do you interpret that?
Well, that's an interpretation of words that I did not put in the rules, so I don't know how he got that. So that's him that did that. Now, people are going to react and defend submissions. Like last night when I talked about the guillotine. When you're a ref, you can't always, is he doing this? Is the thumb in the neck? Is he actually cutting off the blood? But if he spins upside down to avoid a last-minute guillotine, for sure, that was a choke, and that guy did a last-minute ditch effort. You would get a point there. Did he jump to the side to do a Von Flute, to go to the other side and wrestle past to get out of the guillotine if he's being choked already? So some of those will be reactions that naturally happen.
The way I kind of described it to him was like, there's going to be certain things like, I'm going to react because I realize that I'm being set up for a submission. So I'm going to react to it before you get to all the steps. I need to break it down before you complete your steps and make it really impossible. Yeah, then it becomes too late.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like bearing through it and maybe eke out an escape for it.
Yeah, and I understand that. I also talked about sub-sweep combos specifically the omoplata. You know, like if I just throw an omoplata and
Right.
you roll out of it, it doesn't necessarily mean I've had no more knee extension. I wasn't attack. I wasn't. Yes, I was somewhat attacking, but I wasn't fully attacking your arm, right? So I made it clear that once my hand passes that spine and I start to sit up and cover their back for the actual finish of an omoplata. You know me, I prefer to connect around the shoulder.
Yes.
You know, some people like to hold around the collars, and then some people just like to press on the ground. I'm not a huge fan of pressing on the ground, but some people do submit other people like that. But either way, all of those, gi or no gi, have to do with my arm coming up over his back. You know, so that was a clear case in which someone is able to give a strong submission point, and it would be too if the guy swept.
How are you going to approach, like, I guess, uncommon submissions, ones that aren't very well known, that are valid submissions? An example given to me was I'm in your closed guard. I reach around behind you. I get your arm stuck behind your back, like I'm cranking them, like, I don't know.
Modified Kimura type.
Yeah, modified Kimura. There's submissions there. I mean, with me having really bad shoulders, I'm going to be tapped really easily versus someone else that isn't. But it's a legit submission attack for maybe that particular person. Obviously, you're going to have different viewpoints for, like, I'm going to like, I've never been tapped by that. That's not really valid. You might sit there and have a different viewpoint. How are we
The
going to
referee is right there.
Yes.
And the referee, as best we can, are experienced. Most of them are athletes as well, too, but experienced and trained underneath us. And then as they get more experience, they're seeing thousands of matches. Also, they're practitioners of jiu-jitsu, so they're seeing some of this in the gym. But it is impossible to memorize every single solitary thing in jiu-jitsu or know everything. But the general limb submissions and the general ones, you'll be able to see if they're to the breaking point or if it's not, you know.
Would you then allow a bit of common sense interpretation to it? Wow, he's having to struggle and defend that.
Yeah.
He's having a shoulder walk to try and get that arm lower.
That's what I'm saying. The referee's right there, and we have to rely on their expertise, their training in the gym, their times watching the matches, and general knowledge of jiu-jitsu as well too. You know, and this is just the gray area ones, of course, that you're talking about. But
I don't think that's going to be super common, but it is going to be stuff that we're going to have to address at some point.
And it's the same as now, though. So the only really difference is they get a full point instead of an advantage.
That was one of my main argue points with you.
It's still the same exact thing. The criteria never changed.
Yeah, that was one of my main argue points with you as far as adopting this rule. It's like there's that gray area. But the reason why I was a bit overcome that is because it's not like every single submission's like that. And so there's only a few that are going to be like that from time to time. It's not like happening every single match. And so that's why I was able to.
As a brown belt, I was training, I think Bruno Bastos and Chris Westfall way back in the day were coaching me in Los Angeles. And I got choked in half guard by a choke I hadn't seen and they hadn't seen. I mean, I was getting tingly. I tapped. When I got off the mat, I went and asked Bruno, I said, what was that? How do I, and they were like, bro, I didn't even see it. I couldn't even tell, you know, like, so sometimes the corner's not going to quite be able to tell, but the referee's right there, you know, and there are some, and he had like a modified loop choke where he was pushing my head from top half, and I had never been hit by that before. And I was all the way at brown belt running tournaments already. Refereeing.
I mean, there's always going to be weird stuff. I mean, you got big, strong guys that are going to just tap me just from being strong. So do they get a point?
They get the win.
They get the win.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on the back end of AGF right now.
Obviously, on the way for this to tune down a little bit. Okay, so obviously with all these rule changes, we have to adapt the scoreboard. The simplest being now I got to get rid of the advantages and add a point. So right now the scoreboard only counts for 4, 3, and 2. I got to add 1. And a lot of my changes are based on mistakes that we make as an organization from staffing. I mean, it's a long day. Sometimes you just mess up. You and I have a match and ring coordinator puts you as the winner and it should have been me. Or maybe you beat me by a submission and they put ref decision. I mean, I want to try and tighten up those areas, so I make changes to the scoreboard to try and eliminate that user error.
For those that don't know, your stats from the match go to your athlete profile online. So, your ratings or your submissions, not your submission, but your wins and losses and stuff like that are affected. So we don't want any of that to be wrong, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I want to try and make this as easy as possible for the people working here. With us expanding into Europe, we got a lot of new people. I want to make it, so where they don't have to go this huge learning curve. So that's one of the things I'm changing. I want to also try and make it to where we have the right people on the mats. Eliminate errors with, okay, you're listed as Brandon Q, but there's Brandon Quaker that's being called up there. I want to make sure we have the right people up there at the right time. So we're changing the layout of the display so we see the full name, because surprisingly, we've had two people in the same division with the same first name and last initial. We messed it up. So it's not common, but it's like it makes issues for later down the road. Well, now we got to come back, we got to match it, we got to undo, basically.
Manually do it, so go
back.
And dealing with somebody who complained already. It's not like, so it's already a problem.
Yeah, so dealing with that. And then just, when the match is over, displaying up there who won and by what. So if like, hey, no, Brandon didn't win that match. It was Chris, clearly. So it's like, let them have a chance to fix it and eliminate that error. So that's one thing we're doing. We did the podcast a while back where I talked about the ratings. Got a lot of things exposed as far as flaws with that. So I got to go back and try and do some modifications on that. A lot of screwy stuff going on with that. So got parents complaining. I'm like, hey, it's beta. So beta kind of gives me the escape clause. So I was like, it's not being held to fact yet. So the good news is I can go back. I can redo a lot of the stats and try and fix it a little bit better. And then once we get to that point where I know that, hey, this is actually working well, then maybe we can start using it for something. A lot of people are saying, hey, are the ratings taking place as far as seeding? No, I mean, when your rating is flawed and mine's flawed, then it's not really a true indicator of anything. So no, not yet. I told you, every time somebody walks by, that thing flaps, and it's like, you guys can't see it, but we got little things.
Software programmer, but he's got ADD. Is
massive ADD.
I was kidding.
Massive. And there's squirrels
everywhere.
Take so long. There's squirrels everywhere.
There's squirrels everywhere.
So
dang it.
But yeah, so I'm going to work a little bit more and refine on that. And then I talked. I don't know if I talked. Did I talk on the podcast about rewards and stuff like that?
Not so much rewards. I did have a couple questions for you, though.
Okay, so I've always been enamored with like Chuck E. Cheese, where you go play a game, you get your little tickets, you take those tickets and you turn them in for a prize. I always thought that's a really cool incentive for getting people to spend money. But I also like when you go to Baskin Robbins or Starbucks or whatever, and you get points for making purchases.
A reward system.
So I've kind of toyed around with that, and I made a lot of changes this year for credits and stuff, and being able to track purchase history and stuff like that. And so at some point in time, it's not going to be January because I got a lot of stuff I got to do beforehand. But somewhere during this place, I'm going to, sometime next year, I'm going to start implementing a reward system. And I can go back for a while. Whether I do or not, it's going to be determined by whether or not I have data integrity. I don't want to reward you, but then I can't reward, someone else for the same thing because I don't have the right data for it.
What are you trying to reward, like tournaments or gold medals or money?
I think that's what I'm going to take a look at. Obviously, I want to look at, tournaments. I think that's the easy one. If you did 10 tournaments, I think it should be fair that we give you something for it.
What are you going to do about the people like black belts and sponsored athletes that are free and go to all kinds
they don't count. They don't count.
Yeah, the reward is your sponsor.
If you're not putting money in because you're staff or because you're a black belt or you're half off because you're a tiny kid or you're sponsored, that doesn't count towards anything. You just got the luxury of competing for free or competing discounted. So what am I going to do? Give you more free? No. I'm rewarding people putting, their hard-earned money in and, paying for something. This is expensive. I think we're one of the lower priced tournaments now. I think a lot of tournaments out there have gone with a price increase, and we've not. And so I just want to do more to kind of reward those that have put a lot of money invested in us as a tournament organization, as a company, and kind of give back to them in that way.
Speaking of doing other things, one of the other things I talked about with other folks here today and other places is, when are we going to do a majors? This is the U.S. Open, and it's huge. We have 1,000+ competitors and kids today and adults tomorrow, and obviously next year it has to be 3 days. The consensus is that black belts and brown belts, or at least black belts, should be Friday.
I think at least black belts on Friday.
Sorry, I'm talking too much. I didn't get my bottle of water.
Yeah, wonder what happened with that bottle of water.
Yeah, and so
inside jokes you can't catch.
Yeah. Do you want to do? No, Brian didn't throw it farther enough. But do you want to do a world championships for adults? Do you want to do a gi and no gi separate type event for North America or the United States or something like that?
Personally, I would like to have more exposure nationally. Like, I would like for all of our events to be doing well and us hitting everywhere. I would like for us to have a little bit more growth in the Europe, just so that when we do a world, so it makes more sense for it to be a world tournament. Like, nationals make sense. We got rid nationals. This used to be nationals, and then we changed it to the U.S. Open because nationals was supposed to be a roaming tournament. I'm perfectly fine with nationals continuing to be a roaming tournament, and if we draw some international, competitors through the nationals, that's fine. But then eventually see how that's doing, and then go from there with a world tournament.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's something we got to discuss. I've been randomly asked. I can't walk 30 feet in Tulsa without people talking to me. Hey, this is awesome, blah blah. But people do want they want some bigger tournaments from us in terms of just a title, really. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we want to do. We do have the Europeans in Amsterdam. For you guys who don't know, I got lucky and booked it on 420 this year. Okay, it's on 420 in Amsterdam. But so, like, for Amsterdam is our European Championships, for example, in April, and have our nationals. But wanted to grow. It's what I said to Brian when I interviewed Brian as well. I said the same thing you did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you got anything else? Otherwise, let's get back to work.
No, I can't think of anything else.
Rock and roll. Might do a part 2 soon. Watch out now.
Got to figure out something to say.
I'm really cutting it because I'm coughing.
I've been having a cough, and I've been suppressing it this entire time.
Have you?
Yeah.
Didn't get my bottle of water. I learned my lesson. Thanks for listening, folks. Sorry I coughed a few times at the end there. I've been talking for a couple hours now. Man, just keep checking us out on the website. See the new additions that we have. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And just keep up with us. We're putting out lots of content. I do gym visits and interviews with coaches around the world, from Poland to Spokane. So check out the AGF Travels playlist on our YouTube. Check out the AGF podcast and also the AGF rules if you're interested in the rules. We're going to be, like I said, editing and putting up new ones, but the old ones are still in effect. So that's about it, man. And congratulations to good success today, my friend.
You as well.
Tons of ups and downs, but we're just on the up and up and up now. It feels great. Just got done talking with Randy, moving to Pittsburgh. We'll be starting another truck location over there with a tight core group that came from Dallas. And so more growth. So keep looking at us for 2024 with several countries in Europe and Eastern Europe. We moved into Poland. We moved into Czech and different places like that. But yeah, just keep checking us out. I appreciate you watching and listening.
What was that? Keep looking up, because that's where the stars are. Was that the TV show?
Don't mind him. Don't mind him.